first give us a little overview of how long The Atlantic has been on instant articles and how much you publish there a day, just the quick TLDR.
Sure. Yeah, so it's hard to believe it's been almost a full year, it has been a full year since we first started talking about instant articles. Our strategy is to put 100% of our articles on Facebook. We decided early on that if we were going to do it, we were going to go all in. In practice, because we're doing it all programmatically on the back end out of our CMS, there's some things that don't end up making it. And we haven't gone back and done anything with our archives. But I'd say roughly 98% of new article content is on instant.
Okay. And I guess for those of you who haven't been checking your phones all day, there was some news on Facebook Instant in the last hour, just in the last hour. So they're apparently opening up Facebook Instant articles to yet more ad formats because publishers have been clamoring for more abilities to monetize. Do you want to like sum up what they're enabling publishers to do now and how important that is for you guys?
Sure. I think I don't work for Facebook, but I think there's two main things. The first one being that they're going to allow rich media, which means video ads. I think I actually saw somebody put up on the challenge board that they wanted rich media ads on instant articles. So you got that. And the other one is enabling, lifting the restrictions on how many ads per instant article you can have. So they're going to enable us to have an additional ad at the bottom of the article, which they think will lift ad impressions by about 20%. So two things that have been really important in the ongoing conversations that were announced today.
Have advertisers up until now been asking to be on instant articles? Has there been demand for it?
Yeah, we've had demand. I think that we started on Instant as an alpha partner. So our first article went up in May of last year, and then our feed went live in June. In the June timeframe, we were able to sell 2 sponsorships to 2 different advertisers for periods of several weeks. So we've been successful in being able to sell sort of first-to-market sponsorships. We've also been successful in having advertisers who specifically request that inventory on instant articles as part of the buy. And then we also package it as run of site. So technically, the ads are served off of our server. So we sell it in all those ways. I'd say that a lot of the things that advertisers are looking for, advertisers always want something more. And so the thing that we continue to really talk about in our conversation with Facebook will be around native. The question we probably get most often from our advertisers is, can we extend our native campaigns into the instant article environment? And today we can't do that. So that'll be, in my mind, the next frontier. But it's an ongoing conversation.
Right. So that would be an instant article or a native ad running as an instant article itself.
Yeah, it would be actually being able, what The Atlantic would like to be able to do is actually run content in the instant article format. So you're getting all the benefits of the speed and the platform, and you can do that for your advertisers while still being clearly marked and labeled and all the good stuff.
Of course. Oh, we asked in the town hall about the kind of engagement people were seeing from their instant articles. It was kind of a mixed bag. How about you guys? What have the results been?
It's a mixed bag. I don't think, contrary to the title of our session, I think the jury is still out. It's interesting because my assumption going into it, and one of the reasons that we said we're going to go all in, was that one of the big value propositions was that this was going to be a better user experience, and that based on the better user experience that we would see better performance in all of our content. I have been unable, and it's important to note that it's really only been fully live for the last 3 months. So we've been up since June, but I think Android didn't fully roll out until the end of December. So when I look at it, it's really only in the last month that we've had fairly stable traffic to it. In that time, it's all over the map. And I think one of the things I'm starting to see is that content that I would expect to do well on Facebook. So The Atlantic covers a variety of different verticals. Health content historically does pretty well on Facebook. It tends to be something that just travels well in that environment. When I look at individual health articles, I see higher time spent on Facebook than I do in our own platform. When I look at something like the Obama doctrine, which was our big cover story this month, I don't see that. So I'm not sure what, I mean, that's a little bit of an anecdotal situation. I'm not sure yet whether that will play out in all the data. But I think that because there's so many other signals happening within the Facebook algorithm and other things that ultimately determine whether stuff is successful, that it may be the case that we're not going to see a very clear answer to whether it's yay or nay. And so I think the jury's still out. I can say that we have absolutely no negative correlation. We haven't seen that once we went live in Facebook that things declined or things went in another direction. So we're still looking for that big answer, but it may be more nuanced than that.
I guess there are just so many things going on. It's probably hard to isolate what's happening. I mean, you have all this live video being pushed into people's feeds now as well. So, so people are watching live video maybe instead of reading an article, whether it's instant or not.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I think the other thing that's interesting to remember, and for the people in this room, we're in the publishing world, we live and breathe these things. Last night when I was leaving, when I was packing to leave, my husband asked me what I was speaking about, and I said, oh, I'm going to talk about Facebook Instant Articles, and he said, oh, what's that? And I said, well, you know, in Facebook, have you ever noticed that sometimes there's articles that are faster? And he said, no. And I said, okay, well, let me see your phone, and I started looking through his feed, and number one, I realized he doesn't follow the Atlantic, which is maybe questionable.
Oh, bad husband.
Yeah. He swears he follows us on Twitter. But number two, I realized the two brands that he was following that were most prolific in his feed were ESPN and IF Science, and neither one of those are on Instant Articles at this point. And so for him, and he's one person, and that's not me. You know, in my feed, I've got the Washington Post and the New York Times and the Atlantic, and I see Instant Articles day in and day out. And I've personally found that when I see that arrow, that it changes like in an instant. I think, oh yeah, I'll read this, or maybe I won't. I think that because we haven't seen this fully roll out to a lot of brands, that we're still on the early stages of figuring out whether it really changes user behavior, whether it ends up being a positive signal or not. But I just think, you know, it's been, I think we're all eager to have a yes or no, but I think the process is actually a longer, slower process maybe than we would like.
So now you've been in the early batch of publishers that got on Instant. In April, I think it's April 10th or 12th, they're going to open up Instant Articles to all publishers. So what effect do you think that might have on your engagement when everybody and anybody can get in, can start being part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I know there's been a lot of people that have been waiting to get on the platform. I think it's possible that if the content volume really changes and consumers really do start to understand what that signal is, that it could significantly change user behavior and move things in one direction or another. Or it could have zero impact. I mean, the other part of that is that when I started asking my husband why he wasn't following the Atlantic, he says, oh, I don't like to read content on Facebook. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. So it's just, I think it's hard to know how the larger ecosystem is going to respond.
How about just internally, how do you set yourself up to publish on Instant Articles? So, I mean, with all of these platform initiatives, it's something else to design for, it's something else to create a feed for, and maybe create, you know, redesign articles for. Have you been able to just you know, get on Instant Articles with your existing staff and resources, or?
We have. We at the Atlantic are really a small publisher. We've got a fairly small, I would say actually really small development team. I've got 7 developers. So our approach from the beginning was not to put this in the hands of editorial and add it to their plate, because we really want them to do what they do best, but to do it programmatically on the back end. And so We built it into our CMS and basically said when an article is published, translate it in this way and push it to Facebook. And so most of the development work was up front, and I would say, I had basically one developer dedicated when we were working with Facebook in the alpha phase, probably for 3 to 4 weeks. Although that time, a lot of that was back and forth with Facebook, so working through requirements of things we needed. We then, in December, I have another brand, citylab.com, which we hadn't put on Instant yet, and in December we decided to flip the switch, and that took about 3 days to get it live, and most of that, again, was really on our back end, just making sure that we had, out of our platform, the capability to sort of push it through the feed. So, from our perspective, and this has been true with any distribution platform, having a consolidated platform has really been a huge advantage for us. It's something that enables us to move quickly on these things. And I wouldn't say it's a small investment. One senior developer spending that much time on something is a fairly big investment. But it's not, we don't have anybody dedicated to this on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Kim. We don't really have time for questions, but Kim will be around if you want to find her. She'd be happy to answer any and all of your questions.